My dad was great about always instilling a work before play. We had a house out at Lake Havasu when we were younger, but the first thing we always did at Lake Havasu is we got the rakes and the shovels out and we cleaned up around the trailer before we launched the boat. So it was always work before play. And that is what has allowed us to accumulate a collection like we have.
I was fortunate in that Kent, I don't know if it's in your DNA or whatever, but he was always interested in mechanical things and from the time he was born. We built his truck when he was 14 years old. I had a ledger in there. Back in those days, if he wanted a set of spark plugs and they cost $8, I'd buy him the spark plugs and the $8 would go on the deficit side. And he was expected to raise $8 somehow and pay me back. So he paid me every dime it took to build that truck. He runs a company now that is very successful, and maybe that was the start of it.
It's been a great bonding experience for me and my dad, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of it. He likes certain cars, I like certain cars. We build on each other, and it's kind of one of those things where it's just a great hobby that we enjoy together. The builds always take 2 to 3 years to get them done, whereas if you could buy a car at auction, you can, it's more immediate gratification. So we started buying cars, building cars, and it slowly grew. We were dealing with a lot of outside hot rod shops who were doing the builds for us, and eventually it got to a point where we felt like we could do it ourselves, and that's how we're set up today.
When we're building something, there's no time frame to go to a show. It's done when it's as perfect as we can build it. I have a little story about the word perfect. When I was building Brute Force, I was sent going up to Mix Paint, who painted Brute Force. And the whole crew was a Hispanic crew. And so I gathered them around and I said, does everybody understand what the word perfect is? And they looked at each other and they, yeah, sure, perfect, oh, okay, it's nice, I said, okay. About a month later, I went up there and this one guy was working on the front fender and he'd been working on it for about a week. And I said to him, my God, what are you doing? And he turned around and looked up at me and he said, perfect. I said, oh, okay, and walked away. Sometimes that comes back to haunt you, that you have that much expectations of what you want built. Like I say, Brute Force kind of ruined me because now I look at every gap, I look at this, I look at that, and it's like, oh my God, leave it alone. But it's the way it is, and that makes it fun.
The two of them have such a passion for hot rods that they're excited when you show them drawings. I've done jobs for people who really didn't get what they were working on, bought a car that was supposed to be a big deal and had to ask me what the show was at 1-4, and all this kind of stuff where you could see there was just a disconnect. And it's hard to work on a project like that because it always comes down to, well, that's too expensive, or I don't value that, or whatever. These guys, they want the best of the best, and whatever it takes to get there, they're willing to go through to get the best of the best. It's not, we got to do this for $5 or we can't do it. Like, if it costs more, fine, but I better get value for it. And I really respect that because that allows me and the crew here to show our best work. We may take longer than a for-profit shop does, but when we debut the car, we can drive it out of the show. We don't have to push it out of the show or push it into a trailer or what have you. So it's really helped to make a better product. And because I'm here all the time, I get into all the nitty-gritty, every detail on the car, especially like a car like Brute Force. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I need to make this, how do we make this look good? I go, okay, and then I go on to SolidWorks and I build the whole thing out. We machine it, or we discuss how they're gonna hand fabricate it, or we build it in the computer and then 3D print it, or whatever way we're gonna make that part. We have the luxury of being able to do that to the best of our ability rather than to a dollar amount or a time on the clock.
We're more traditional guys. We don't have any hybrids in our future or electric hot rods or any of that kind of stuff planned. We love the big, mean and nasty engines. We love being able to drive the cars on road trips and road tours. We've done a lot of the good guys road tours in our cars, which, you know, they have to drive well to be able to navigate a 2,000-mile road trip. We like the classics, and that's what we're building. I mean, I have a 60 Impala that's going to come out here in the next couple of years. That it will be our next car that comes out from our shop. I also have a 69 Roadrunner that's in the works. So more of the classics, more of the same. Big engine, modern suspensions and drivetrains with the classic body styles of the older cars. That's really what we like and what we're continuing to build.
From experience and dealing with lots of different customers over the years, I've come to realize that people interact with their classic, custom, hot rod, whatever, in different ways. Everybody's got it. I have had customers who love to drive. I had customers who wanted to trailer their car and just stand there and listen to everybody talk about it. I had a customer that his favorite thing to do on a Saturday was to sit in his garage in a chair with a glass of scotch and a cigar and stare at his car. You know, everybody's got a different thing. Well, these guys, they love to build them. They want to be with the project. They want to know what's going on. And then they love to drive them. So every car's got to run and drive. And there are a handful that don't, and it's only because we haven't got to them yet. But everything that can drive runs and drives. And I laid out the building so that there was a clear path, so it was easier to get the cars in and out. Like I said, at the last place, everything was tucked in, so you had to move lots of cars. Here, you pretty much, other than the cars that are on the top of the lifts, you can drive any car out the door easily. They poured concrete over the top of the old slab, a 3-inch slab over the top that's all reinforced. And in between that, they ran electrical, so there's electrical outlets between the cars, so you can just conveniently plug it in and you don't have as much stuff laying around. It's not as messy, so they were able to keep it nice and clean. And then the convenience of having the entire collection on the other side of the wall means that even if a car breaks down and won't run, we can always push it or tow it with a forklift around the corner and we're in the room.
I'll typically come in here and grab a car and drive it for 2 weeks. You know, putting 30, 40 miles a day on it and just enjoying it, taking it home, put it in the garage just like it's my daily driver. And a couple weeks later, come back and get another one and do the same thing. And again, that's what we pride ourselves on in here. Pretty much everything, you can get in it and drive it, not have to worry. So I have a soft spot for pickups, as you've seen in here. I think I have 8 trucks in here. And every one of them is drivable, runnable, dependable vehicle.
I sold my high school truck in 1979, shortly after I graduated from high school. And it was probably in early 2000s, maybe the late 90s, that we were going to a lot of car shows. We'd accumulated a bunch of cars by then and doing a lot of car shows. We were out at the LA Roadster show one Father's Day weekend, and we saw a truck very similar to the one that we built. And I said to my dad, I said, man, it'd sure be fun to find that truck someday. And I didn't know it, but he was already working on that. And you know, he was able to locate where the truck was, and he was able to buy it back without me even knowing about it, and surprised me with it. So it was a pretty special experience to get that truck back all those years later. And it was in exactly the same condition that I sold it in 1979. So it's sitting over here in the corner of the collection, and it's not going to go anywhere again.